Ever have waffle crisp?
No,
I remember
Americans
that. I
have
never had it.
amazing cereals. I was always
Oh,
jealous.
waffle crisp, man. That's
You,
like
you were probably much, much thinner because of it.
I remember like
exactly.
we sent my dad to the States on to get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cereal because we had to have this cereal. Like my brother
I'm
and I were all
imagining
about turtles, and
your
he had to
dad
go.
driving a truck with like boxes, empty boxes in the back. But if you pull them up, then there would be all this breakfast cereal hidden
Yeah.
away below.
Sir, are you smuggling breakfast cereals into the over the
No,
border?
no, eh?
Well, these days I have my American friends bring me Gatorade because there's so many more flavors and it's so much cheaper in the
It's the
States.
same
No kidding.
Gatorade, and they just add Kool-Aid powder.
Yeah. Or powder or something like that. No, did I tell you I got some green tea ice cream at the Japanese supermarket nearby the other day, and they put golden grams in the bottom?
What?
Like, wait, was it made in Japan, or was it like,
What made in Japan?
no, the ice cream? Like, was it like something that was imported from?
I don't know. A lot of that stuff is imported. All I know is I told Eileen, get me the green tea ice cream. So she went over to the little stand. There's a food court area. She went over to the stand and got green tea ice cream, and I was eating it, and there were golden grams in the bottom. I'm like, this is the best surprise ever.
You know, Golden Grams is good for the first few bites, and then after a while, it's way too
It was
sweet.
great with green tea ice cream, though. I'm telling you.
I'll
They
try.
also had the little mochi bits on top too.
That's a good thing because you can just buy golden grams and add that to stuff,
I know,
right?
I could just go get some green tea.
Well, you know, I found
soft
this-
serve though, so
I found this great Hawaiian shave place over in the, not the Americana, what's the other one? The Galleria Mall. Really good. Like really, really good. They actually have these shaved ice machines, so it's not that
so you're getting it real, not
you're not getting like, and they're using a block ice. It's not like that BS snow
Yeah.
cone blower they call it shaved ice.
well. Why do we end up talking about breakfast cereal so often, Roger?
I think
it's
it's
delicious.
because of Len. Really,
Yeah, yeah.
Len is grasping.
Is it Fridays that we more often talk about it?
I don't think we ever talked about breakfast cereals.
It's
together.
it's also probably one of the more innocuous topics that we won't accidentally stray into something too heated.
Oh, well, any topic can become sort of weird.
The sugar corn pops lobby
Right. Right.
has undue influence. Well, it's as you may have noticed if you're watching the video, it's a Hat Friday again, and thanks to Len for reminding us. We almost forgot that
Yeah.
it was going to be a Hat Friday.
I love me some hats.
So what you've got Run CLE,
Yeah, that's right.
the Cleveland take on Run DMC. And what was yours again, Jen?
OWHA, like Ontario Women's Hockey Provincials 2017.
Yeah,
We got murdered, but we still got a hat.
it's a good unique hat because none of us are going to have that one.
Not so much.
Roger's got the NSA hat on again.
Yes.
And do you guys recognize what I have on?
No, what is that?
TC. So Creative Cloud. Cold.
I don't know what that is.
Cybercrime.
Oh, Cybercrime with
It's
Alex
the old
Wellen.
Cybercrime TV show hat.
Who was the other guy? Alex Wellen.
It was Jennifer London, wasn't it?
You know, somewhere I have. I know I have a podcast pickle hat somewhere.
Podcast, good old podcast pickle.
I think my son has it.
A screensaver's hat somewhere still.
All right, shall we begin?
Yes, I need control.
Well, if you must.
Yeah, I suppose we must.
I have
There
way
you
too
go,
many
Roger.
tabs.
Okay, here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, June 23rd, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Jen Cutter is joining us again. Welcome back, Jen. Good to have you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. You've got your studio set up finally.
Yes, more or less. It is almost there. The lighting's not set up, but I'm so close. It makes me really happy.
Yeah, it looks really good. Actually, the lighting looks good for not even being set up right yet. So
Well, it's too hot to turn on the lights today.
turn on the full lights. I hear you, man.
It's too
I hear
sticky.
ya. You know who else is hot? Len Peralta is here to
Ooh.
illustrate the show.
Thank you so much. It actually is physically hot, and yes,
That's what I
am-
meant. Yeah.
Yes, and I am hot too. So there you
You're also very warm.
go. Very. I got a temperature. That's very right.
So Len's going to illustrate. We're going to talk tech. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. Google Senior Vice President of Cloud, Diane Green, posted Friday that Google will no longer scan Gmail users' emails in order to serve ads. Google will continue to serve ads in Gmail, but it'll be based on your search history, your YouTube history, and things like that. This is the head of cloud telling the head of ad sales, which is all the money at Google, what to do. Jen, that's pretty crazy.
It is. I should be happier about this news, but my email is mostly my dad sending me things I don't care about, whereas like my searches and my YouTube are things I do care about, so it's somehow a little creepier.
It may be creepier, but maybe that's better, because then the ads will actually more likely be things you care about versus things your dad cares about.
Yeah, well, there'll be a lot less golf in my sidebar now.
There you
but
go.
yeah, because now that only applies to like the personal free one, right? The company one is still going to be the same as it was before.
The G Suite one will not be scanned either, but it wasn't scanned before.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
think.
there's no change on that
Yeah,
front.
there's no change. But Diane Green wanted to say, look, we don't want people getting creeped out and not wanting to buy G Suite because of that. So, Charmin, the makers of toilet paper, and Anthony Anderson, the star of the TV show Blackish, have been conducting a 2-day pilot program in Manhattan for a toilet hailing service called Charmin Van Gogh. If you got in on this, you'd go to charminvangogh.com and you could hail clean restrooms delivered in a van to your location.
See, you sent me the link. I see the picture. I still can't believe it's real.
I know it's only a 2-day thing, and obviously this is just a big PR stunt. It's a marketing stunt, but I think they're onto something, especially in touristy areas like Times Square. I can see people paying for this.
Oh, definitely. And I can see cops just following it around, giving it a ticket every time it stops in a bike lane.
Oh yeah, no. Then yeah, that would be the next thing. Is the toilet hailing services would be causing backups, so to speak. So yeah, that would all have to be worked out. But I don't know. I think Charmin, for all of the marketing involved in the inspiration for the idea, may have hit on something.
Well, you know they're going to have toilet paper.
Yeah, well, that's true. Here's some other top stories. VentureBeat's Evan Blass, a.k.a. EvLeaks, says his sources say Samsung is telling its partners that the 6.3-inch Samsung Galaxy Note 8 will be out for €999, announced in the latter half of September. Supposedly, it's also going to come with 6 gigabytes of RAM, not the normal 4 that you get in the Galaxy S. It'll have dual cameras on the back, and most importantly, just a 3,300 milliamp hour battery.
That price scares me.
€999. Yeah, it probably ends up being around $700 or $800, either Canadian or US. I'm going to guess. But they're sticking with the Note brand. They're sticking with the big screen. And I'm very interested how they approach this announcement.
I guess my problem is I can't justify this. Like my old phone is slowly dying, and I'm debating going back to T9. Because just like I'd rather have a new computer than a fancy phone that is almost as good as my current computer.
Well, and that is a good question. I mean, one of the things people were thinking was, why have the Note when the Galaxy S is almost the same size, is pretty much, according to the EvLeaks stuff, about the same specs. I mean, you don't have the S Pen come with it. You know, you're not going to have 6 gigabytes of RAM. But how much difference is there really? And how much room at the top end of the smartphone market is there to sell these?
I'm curious what the ceiling is for consumers. Like these phones seem to sell well. There's all kinds of high-end phones. There's new people getting into the phone business, trying to capture the market. It's going to be really interesting to see what you can do with your phone and when it eventually starts just becoming a laptop.
Yeah. Now, Thrumwald in our chat room rightly points out that €999 is more like $1,200 US. But I was taking something from what we heard from EvLeaks. At the end of the article, he says that €999 should translate to a little over $900, given that the €799 S8 sold for $725. So it's not about exchange rate. It's about looking and saying, okay, they price things a little more expensively in Europe than they do in the US.
Yeah, it's that mental thing. Like if you keep it under $1,000, you're like, oh, it's affordable, as opposed to $1,200. Now you're in a different realm of thinking.
Yeah. So end of September, look for them to use a lot of cold metaphors and stability assurances.
There'll be nothing approaching a fire in the
Yeah, there's not going to be fireworks. There's not going to be flamethrowers.
No sparklers. It's all out.
Google added a note to its policy page that says it will now remove, quote, confidential personal medical records of private people from search results. Google tries to limit what it interferes with. It basically takes the approach of, if it's publicly available, we assume it's publicly available for a reason and we index it. They do make exceptions for financial information. So if they see credit card numbers, they won't index that. The copyright violations obviously is well covered, of people saying, hey, you got to take this out of your search index. And revenge porn recently, just as recently as 2015, they made an exemption for that. Medical records, of course, should not be indexable publicly unless a medical institution accidentally publishes them. That happened. 43,000 records made public in December by an Indian pathology lab by mistake. So Google making it the policy that if a mistake like that happens, they will take those records out of the index.
That is slightly comforting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good.
Yeah, it's not Google's fault that those things showed up online, at least.
I think one of the reasons this is attractive to me is it is a great example of why you can't just have an algorithm. Maybe machine learning will get smart enough at some point to be able to say, oh, wait, medical records, that probably shouldn't be out there, and identify that. But right now, the algorithm is based on, hey, if it's public, it's supposed to be public, and it can't really adapt to something that was mistakenly made public.
Yeah, I didn't know about the credit card things either. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, no, that's something they had to put in years ago for the same reason. Credit card numbers accidentally being posted online, or maybe in some cases not accidentally, but some malicious actor publishing them on like a paste bin or something.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with people on Twitter taking pictures of their credit card. And,
yeah, you don't want that indexed. Don't do that also.
Also, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Samsung launched the Exynos IT200 processor optimized for Internet of Things devices. The IT200 applies Samsung's 28 nanometer high-K metal gate process. It's got varying cores. So, for example, the Cortex-R4 core can do the heavyweight stuff like run the operating system, while the independent Cortex-Mo Plus can do things like just operate the status lights, turn the LEDs on and off, that kind of thing. There's also a security subsystem that can handle passwords and data backup and prevent copying. The T200i, I stands for Internet of Things, by the way, supports Wi-Fi, Open Connectivity's IoTivity standard, and is certified by Microsoft Azure IoT. So Samsung, like Intel, like Qualcomm, hoping to capture a big part of what is expected to be a large Internet of Things market.
What I hope is that they spend as much, if not more time on the security side of things that isn't just anti-copying, because we need less things that are easily hackable over the internet. No,
seriously, like the fact that there is a security subsystem in an Internet of Things chip is praiseworthy, and that's how sad the security has been on the Internet of Things side. So yeah, I hope you're right. I hope this handling of passwords and data backup is robust. I look forward to people auditing that. This next one I think is important because it is an attempt to solve a problem before it becomes a bigger problem. We have seen Google and Microsoft be asked to hand over information on people that is stored outside of the United States by United States government. So Microsoft won their case. It is being appealed to the Supreme Court. We'll see if the Supreme Court picks it up. But Microsoft, if the current decision is let stand, successfully fought to say, hey, if data is stored on our Irish server, you have to get Ireland to issue a warrant. You can't issue a warrant in the U.S. for data that's not in the U.S. Alphabet, the folks that own Google, is working to get lawmakers worldwide to update laws on how governments may or may not access that data that's stored on servers outside their country. This is not just U.S. related. Google General Counsel Kent Walker announced the proposed framework in a speech to the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. The framework they're proposing would say, if countries all commit to certain baseline privacy, human rights, and due process principles, then we have all of those countries agree to honor direct requests from each other. So in other words, you say, look, you have to have this level of vetting. You can't just make random requests, and you have to have a proper probable cause and all of that sort of thing and due process. But if you agree to that, then we will honor your request for data on servers in our country. And likewise, you will honor requests for data on servers in your country. Right now, the rules are that a country has to request a warrant to be issued by the country where the server is, which is why the United States was suing Microsoft. They didn't want to have to go through the lengthy process of getting an Irish court to issue the warrant. So it's interesting. Google is saying, look, we understand if you're processing an actual crime, you don't want to go through that lengthy process of going into another country and beginning from scratch to get your request. But we should have a process that ensures that if you're requesting data from a server outside your own country, that you have followed all the appropriate rules and that that country would do so in return.
I wonder which is faster, going through all these appeals to get to the Supreme Court or getting this huge international agreement together.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you need a request now, it'd probably be faster to just go to the country and start the process to get a warrant issued there. But in the end, I think the idea of having an international framework that says, let's just all agree to do this right, so that law enforcement doesn't have to waste time, but we also protect the rights of citizens from spurious requests. I think that's the way it should be done.
Yeah, on its surface, I can't see a reason why this would be a bad thing, but I'm sure lawyers who are much better at this sort of thing will have reasons.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously folks can, and Silverblade's saying this, government can just lie and say they followed the rules. So that's why you need a framework that says, hey, if we catch you doing that and we have assurances in place, let's make this happen. There are plenty of examples of other international frameworks for just this sort of thing. They just don't relate to online. They don't relate to data.
Yeah, a lot of the laws relating to online are just too far behind, so this kind of catch-up is necessary.
Finally, the shortage of NES Classics and Nintendo Switches has prompted Nintendo Senior Director of Corporate Communications Charlie Shibeta to tell Ars Technica, and I quote, "It's definitely not intentional in terms of shorting the market. We're making it as fast as we can. We want to get as many units out as we can to support all the software that's coming out right now." He's like, look, we need to have these things on the shelves for Mario when it comes out at the holiday season. Shibeta says Nintendo simply underestimated the demand. Nintendo has sold 2.7 million Switches in the first month, and they're on track for 10 million by the end of their fiscal year, which was their goal, but I think they're going to pass that goal. So, Jen, do you believe them?
I still remember as a kid, my mom having to drive all over Southern Ontario to get me and my brother copies of Pokemon Blue and Red because the demand was just somehow unanticipated. That it's still happening today, 20 years later, I guess more than 20, I don't remember how long ago that was. It's kind of amazing because it goes to everything that they make, whether it's the first party controllers, whether it's the systems, whether it was the Wi-Fi dongle that was really rare for a while. And then Amiibo. Amiibo was rare, not in Japan, but especially in North America, it was very hard to get your hands on. Here, for even like the 3DS and new 3DS, it has been 8 months since I've seen one in a store. That shelf is just empty. I can get any kind of Switch accessory, but no Switches, no 3DS. They seem to make one thing at a time, and then everything else just shuts down in the meanwhile.
Yeah, I think this, to me, says more about Nintendo's poor inventory management and forecasting than it says about some kind of conspiracy to not let you buy one of their things. Because in the end, if they don't ever have them available, they don't make money. So that's not a very good plan.
Yes, you can't sell games for systems that people can't get.
Exactly.
So I
and they
say
make the money
that,
on the
and
games.
you know, Zelda managed to sell more copies than they sold systems. So people are pre-buying the games. But I do wonder if there is a parts shortage that they don't want to talk about.
That is very much more likely to be something real than some sort of diabolical plan to keep them off shelves. Is that there is a parts shortage that's hurting their supply, and there's parts shortages in a lot of different industries out there. Apple often is the cause because they go and they lock up orders ahead of time and they keep plants at capacity to where they can't make parts for other people. So we've talked about that before. That could definitely be affecting Nintendo and wouldn't be something they'd want to talk about publicly.
And Nintendo does tend to be conservative. They don't like having big stockpiles of things around. whether they are having flashbacks to like the Atari ET days. They don't keep these warehouses around. They make sure they sell through really quickly.
Yeah. I think there might be a part of Nintendo that understands that, hey, if we have temporary shortages, that ain't such a bad thing. It builds up some hype. And so they'll err on that side sometimes in estimating their supply, but I don't think it's the main driver. I don't think it makes sense for them to not want to have enough of these devices on the shelves.
Yeah. And Nintendo knows they have that luxury that their fans will wait. The people that want to Switch will keep going to the stores, will keep checking Amazon, will keep going to eBay. And I really should just do the midnight launch next time, stand in line and, you know, pay for my hockey for the next several years by selling on eBay.
You know, I've never done that. I've never bought a thing just to sell it on eBay because it just
feels like I want some kid to have their toy. I don't want to be taking that away from them. But I also know that my mom probably went to some place like that to procure the things that we wanted for Christmas as a kid.
You're a better person than I am. I was about to say that the math doesn't work out. Like my time in line is worth more than usually what I can sell it for. But there's also that of like, you know, why do I want to be bilking some poor person out of their money? Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, you can subscribe to our podcast, dailytechheadlines.com, get it as a flash briefing on the Amazon Echo, or if you haven't downloaded it yet and you want to try it out, anchor.fm to get the Anchor app. You can just search Anchor in the store. It's a cool way to consume all kinds of content. And we enjoy doing Daily Tech Headlines on there because we can do them as individual pieces that if you've heard one, you can just swipe right past it and you can make calls in. We got so many good calls on our Anchor app this week. It was really fun to hear those, and we usually answer a couple of them each day. So you can check that out as well, dailytechheadlines.com, or search for Anchor.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's neat.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun little app. I've been enjoying it. It was one of those things where I did it at first just to try it out, and the longer I've been doing it, the more cool things I've been figuring out to do with it. There's this whole conversational aspect to it that's fun. So let's get into YouTube and Google's Daydream VR division launching a new format for virtual reality called VR 180. It's called 180 because it only shows you half of the 360-degree video. They're basically saying, look, most people don't turn around, and if they do turn around in VR, they look directly behind them. They don't really look around. They're mostly looking in front of them, so you can save a lot of data. And you can make things a whole lot easier if you just do 180. So VR 180 can be viewed just flat on a screen. So it's easily adaptable to a non-3D view. You can do it in 3D on YouTube where you use your mouse to kind of pan around. Or you can watch it in Cardboard or Daydream, obviously Google products, or the PlayStation VR is supporting it as well. They say they are trying to make it easy for creators to shoot VR, because if it's 360, you got to hide your cameraman somehow. If it's 180, you just stand behind the camera like you do right now. It'll eventually be editable in Adobe Premiere Pro. And like I said, saves you data both in storage and in streaming. They've got some cameras coming out from Yi, Lenovo, and LG this winter. YouTube also announced a bunch of other things at VidCon. YouTube TV launching in 10 more US markets. If you've been waiting for it to come to yours, you might want to check that out. Also, 1.5 billion logged in viewers per month on YouTube, spending more than an hour a day watching video on mobile. But what do you think of VR 180? This idea of if we just cut half the sphere out, it just makes a lot of things easier.
It does make a lot of things easier, and that it's so much easier for people without the headset to watch. You're going to possibly increase the attach rate if they're like, oh, this is cool. I do want to see this in more dimensions, I guess. So I like how they said, oh, it'll be easier to shoot, but not for a while because we don't have any of that stuff ready yet.
Yeah, we don't have the cameras for you yet. It doesn't have to do the stitching either. When you have a 360-degree video, you have several different perspectives that have to be stitched together to make 360. It's a lot easier to just capture in 180. Some cameras will actually capture 180 degrees, or at least close to it at a time. I want to mock this because it's like, really, you're just cutting it in half? But it makes so much. It's one of those situations where the more I think about it, the more I think it's a very obvious good solution to a first step. We may want 360-degree video. We may figure out a use for that down the road. But if what's keeping people from experimenting more with this is that they can't figure out the difficulty of 360, make it easy. Because if suddenly I don't have to worry about the cameraman, right? I'm the perspective. there's a lot of logistics that become so much easier.
I will miss playing Spot the Cameraman because that's my favorite thing. But I am that person who will look for the boom mic and shots, so I don't count on that. But
Yeah.
lowering this barrier to entry, it lets a lot more people get involved. There are so many creative people who have ideas, but not the budget to go straight to 360. So this makes it a lot more approachable.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. I'd like to see it in gaming too, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're pretty committed to the 360 because let's face it, you do turn around in video games.
You do turn around in video games, and in video games, you would get the savings of the file size, but you don't have a cameraman that you have to hide, so it doesn't make that easier. And you don't need new cameras in video games, right? So you're just capturing what's there. I can't find much to complain about this, except like you say, the fact that the editing and the cameras aren't necessarily out yet.
Yeah, because I was thinking like, oh, I'll do this. Oh, I have to go to YouTube Center. Well, oh well.
Yeah. In the meantime, though, like once these come out, a couple $100 for this camera, and suddenly you're I don't know. It made me think about doing this in a way that I'd never before. Before I was like, why do I need to do 360-degree video? I mean, it would be a novelty. It really wouldn't add anything. But suddenly when I'm just talking about, okay, well, what's in front of me? I mean, I could see putting a 180-degree camera on me there. And then I would only have to worry about to my right and my left. What do I do? What do I make use of there? And it just makes things simpler. It's that way that sometimes when you simplify things, it makes them more useful.
I would love to see this in sports. Like to show someone on the ice, like just my 180, like going down what people look for. That could be an amazing training tool. There's a lot of things, and I'm getting closer and closer to springing for a PlayStation VR. So that it's supported in this is another reason. But I'm also really lucky that like the Star Trek bridge crew isn't the next generation, because I probably would have run out and bought it immediately.
It would have made you drop that money right away.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's not TNG. Well, I can wait.
So you're saying you'd like this mounted on like a forward's head?
Yeah, or a goalie too.
Yeah.
It's like the GoPro, like because the NHL and GoPro did a promotion, and there are some beautiful videos that came out of that. So to have more, the wider field of view would be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if you could put that live streaming on a goalie's head, suddenly I'm interested in watching sports in VR. Because I'm getting, like, if I have both goalies and I could switch back and forth, I'm getting the entire field of play, pretty much.
Yeah, because the NHL added a ref cam this year, which has been great, because then you see whether they saw it or totally blew the call.
Right, make the refs all wear 180-degree video. The 180-degree video cameras will see more than the referees.
Because this year they also added the blue line cameras, or I guess the year before. Yeah. And they need to do reviews faster, but otherwise I like the idea.
I want to put it on the coaches. Now I want to put it on everybody.
Well, at that point, you're getting the full perspective of the eye.
Yeah, you're basically seeing what every eye in the place sees.
That's still so much bandwidth. So much.
Yeah, it is. It's going to take a while for bandwidth to even at the reduced amount, even at half the bandwidth, it's still a lot of bandwidth. But you know what? I have to say this is probably one of the best ideas to push VR. Well, VR, but also more surround video. We can't call it 360-degree video even. It's half 360 video.
Well, I think about it as progression. Like it was a kind of a painful switch from SD to HD, and now there's the HD to 4K. But nobody's really interested in past 4K except for the edge cases.
Yeah.
My dad, who loves movies, does not care about a 4K thing because not enough things are in 4K. So it's a slow progression, and now it's happening in VR as well.
Well, and one of the issues with this kind of video is the resolution just can't be as good because of the bandwidth requirements. But if you cut, again, the bandwidth requirement in half, if you cut the data requirement in half, you can have a higher resolution video. You can make that trade-off. All right, folks. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them. Helps us figure out what to talk about. Our Charmin story came from the subreddit at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Hat tip to Strike at Rich One, I think is the one who had that. Get out there and vote. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Message of the day from Josiah says, "Hey, Tom and Jen, I just listened to your conversation with Justin comparing and contrasting Travis Kalanick and Mark Zuckerberg. Now, you both made some interesting points, but I feel an important one is probably due to my bias as an educator. I think the relative age difference between the two men is significant. Mark Zuckerberg is 8 years younger than Kalanick right now, and was still in his formative years when he founded Facebook and became a de facto celebrity. A lot of his controversy happened before he was 21, or while still literally growing up as a CEO of an international company. Kalanick, on the other hand, was already in his 30s as he started to build Uber. Zuckerberg acting like a kid while he was still effectively a kid is easier to understand and perhaps forgive than to see a grown man act immaturely. If I can offer an analogy, Zuckerberg was like a Peter Parker who messed around with prize fighting before he grew up and realized the responsibilities that came with his power. Kalanick is more like Tony Stark, who shows charisma and genius, but ultimately comes to self-destructive tendencies. I hope he can beat back his demons and have a powerful second act. Thanks for making my daily 60-mile commute. It is interesting and informative. Thank you, Josiah. I think that is an incredibly good point that I had not thought about. I didn't realize Zuckerberg was that much younger than Kalanick.
Definitely an age gap there.
And it makes a lot of sense that you would have a board much more willing and likely to jump in and say, okay, Mark, we'll let you be CEO, but you need to take some advice from your elders when he's that young, versus a 30-year-old CEO who's, they're like, well, that would be disrespectful. He's a grown man. He can make his own decisions.
Well, as a woman, I'm kind of biased on this front.
Yeah, I'm
Don't
sure.
have a lot of sympathy. In fact, none. These mistakes are all of his own making.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, I don't know that you use a lot of these services to begin with. Do
No,
you?
I've been anti-Uber from the start, and I have not and will not use it.
I was going to say, do you use Lyft though? Do you use other services?
No, I'm surprisingly well served by my own car, and now I'm in an area with much better transit, which is great, so I can leave the car at home a lot more.
Gotcha. So
But for hockey,
because
you gotta
my
drive
question
yourself.
was going to be, and you basically answered it, but my question was going to be, will you trust Uber now that they've cleared house? And it sounds like you're like, no, bridge
No,
has been
but
burned.
I'm also fortunate to not be in an area where I would need some service like that because I'm not served by any of the existing modes of transportation.
Well, personally, I have to say my biggest problem with Uber as a user was that they didn't allow tipping in the app. And now that they're adding that in, once that shows up in the app for me, and the fact that they've cleaned house, I may start to judge more on performance. But I've been using Lyft pretty consistently, and I don't have a reason to not use them. They've been pretty great. So
But what you see in the app may not necessarily be what the driver sees.
yeah, and I've talked to drivers about that, and they're like, we can't tell. We're not sure. Like, we get a tip check, but we're suspicious that it's accurate. So if you can tip with cash, and I've done that before with a driver that I was really happy with, like, well, I'm going to make sure you get all of this. But sometimes you just don't have cash, and it's nice to have the option in the app. All right, let us check in with Len Peralta to find out what he has been drawing based on our discussions today on the show. Len?
Yeah, I was so happy to hear that Strike and Rich had sent this in because there's a fan base for this. I read the article about Charmin making the Van Gogh portable mobile toilets, but I think there's a big missed marketing opportunity here. Why couldn't they have just called it Poober?
So you think if someone were to take Charmin's idea and run with it, that this is the obvious name for it?
Absolutely. I think that it's a missed marketing opportunity. I think they're onto something, but why not? Why not just call it what it is?
Now, in your illustration, it appears that a person is both taking advantage of the service and driving at the same time.
It's one of those things that I think, this is my own personal contribution to the idea. I think not only can you have the drive, it can show up, then you can drive and also go to the bathroom as well. I think it's
your person is driving from on top of the car.
Hey, it's go-kart style.
Yeah, exactly. It's letting people know what exactly is happening in this vehicle, so that there's no questions, and you just know what it is. So
AJC suggests that he will be using the competitive service Shift.
I saw. I like that. I like that. That's also a very good name. I'm taking
I
that
just
into
realized
consideration.
that the van is also a has a flush handle on it.
And there's also toilet paper right there. Yeah.
All right. So a certain segment of the audience is going to absolutely adore this. And everyone should go take a look at it at lenperaltastore.com.
Yeah, it's on the front page of the store right now.
And if I may, I have to say, Len is doing a commission push again. If you need something drawn, you should go commission Len. As soon as I saw that he was doing this, I immediately went and asked him to draw my dogs again. He did an amazing drawing years ago of Django and Sawyer as private detectives, and so I had him update that with with Sawyer, who's still around, and my new dog Ray, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, it was nice to revisit them and kind of update it. I thought it was really cool. And I'm really happy the way it turned out. So it was yeah, definitely. If you go to lenperaltastore.com, it's Len's ongoing commission sale, and I'm just doing commissions all the time. I'm sort of just going through the summer, and they just make great gifts or just a personal thing for yourself. So
yeah, absolutely. Jenn Cutter, what do you got going on to tell folks about?
Well, I would say keep watching my Twitter. I've been on a bit of a break recently, so I want to take this time for personal plea. My dad had been in the hospital for a while because of heart issues. So if anyone has been putting off their physical or putting off getting themselves checked out, if you have the means, please, please, please do it. If not for you, then for your family and friends.
That is a very good plea that I will second. I put off going to the doctor for a few years and was scared to go into the doctor. And when I did, I found out that I needed to wear shorts more often and take some Metamucil. But it could have been worse. And two things happened. One is I set myself up for preventative medicine, like you're saying, Jen, so that if there is a problem, I will catch it. And the other thing is I felt better after knowing okay, this is all that it is. I don't have to worry about whether it'll go away. So yeah, 100% second that. If folks want to catch what you're doing, where should they go to follow you?
At Jenn Cutter is definitely the best place. I will link everything there. And I did just update briefly my personal website where some non-gaming blog posts will be. The actual gaming stuff will be showing up elsewhere, hopefully, now that I'm back home again in the next couple of weeks.
Excellent. Hey, thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value they get from it, including Lou White, Brody Reagan, Eric Vogslid, and more. Many, many more. You guys are what makes this show possible. I always try to make sure we raise by at least one patron every month, and we're ahead of that goal. So thank you so much for making that possible. Patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back on Monday with Veronica Belmont. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
boom.
Good show.
Hooray.
And good message at the end, Jed.
I figured, well, I've got the audience. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, no, I get behind that. And I'm not kidding. I kept worrying I wonder if this little pain is this or that. And going and just setting that all aside you won't realize how much it was worrying you. And like you say, it will help you and your family and friends. So 100%. Dark Redeemer seconding it in the chat room as well. Schnago says, I have to share a vitamin D story with Ace Detect. Mega doses of D and living in shorts for 2 months raised D from 1 to 17.
Wow.
Living in shorts. I can't live in shorts, but I'm trying to wear more.
Well, you guys are in areas with sun, right?
Yeah, there's that too.
Well, vitamin D is huge. I'm low on that. I take supplements, but since I moved down here, I've stopped. But I probably should.
But you have to go outside too.
Yeah. Like in the winter, I will supplement vitamin D as well.
You do. You go out in your lawn and stuff.
Also, B12. Turns out that I was low on B12, and supplementing that made a huge difference.
That is a big thing for women in general.
I had no idea.
Well, the only reason I know is because my wife has that issue as well, and I guess according to her doctor, it's a thing for women as they get older, just like men need to take a bunch of other stuff that I don't take.
And honestly, that's the kind of stuff you can be following a really good recommended diet, but without having your doctor look you over and do tests and interpret them, you're not getting as accurate of a representation of what you do and don't need.
Yeah, I had to start supplementing once I became lactose intolerant because I thought I was supplementing enough other stuff with my diet changes, but I wasn't close in some of them.
Yeah.
Well, me eating a half gallon worth of ice cream every week isn't suitable. Isn't a good replacement for drinking milk. Ice cream.
Well, I'm really happy. I'm not anemic anymore. Yay!
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'm now on the low end of normal, but I'll
What's
take
funny
it.
is my wife went in and she had low iron, which is also pretty typical for females. And then I went in and my doctor's like, you have almost too much iron. It's not a problem, but you're like way high. I'm like, yeah, because we just started cooking all this iron-rich food for my wife.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead. I was just saying I didn't really realize what bad shape I was until my gout hit. And I was like, it really sucks. And then the doctor tells me, I was eating spinach. I love spinach. I was eating turkey, which is good. And then I was eating mushrooms. Turns out all three of the worst things for gout.
Jeez.
But no, definitely, it's very interesting because there's a lot of things you can nip in the bud before they become issues. And that's really the number one reason I just get regularly checked up. I should do that, but I just moved down here. Yeah. Oh, someone said you're a real Doc Martin. Ian from the chat room said you're a real Doc Martin.
Yeah, what was it? Canadian Blood I donate blood, and Canadian Blood Services changed the rules for women. We are only allowed. I think it's now basically once every 6 months, whereas before they'd let us do more often, just because they realized that it was having such a negative impact on women nationwide to donate too much. So they scaled it back and upped the iron requirements and everything. Because they want healthy blood. They don't want stuff that they can't use.
And remember to eat before you go and drink plenty of fluids.
Yeah. Well, I have to do it only on breaks between hockey seasons, because if I do it the same, like within 4 days of playing hockey, I don't get it back soon enough, and I'm just dead on the ice.
I passed out when I went to the lab to get blood. I didn't eat anything. I didn't drink because I was so used to getting blood at my doctor.
It's not just eat, but pay attention to doctor instructions and don't assume ones that weren't given.
Yes. But yeah, it's like, whoa, it's like finally there's color back in your lips. They're like slapping me.
Oh, no.
I guess the nurse is like, oh, did I do something wrong? I broke this one.
Yeah.
We're covered for this, right? We're covered for it.
I'm going to go with you can go ahead and read some more of the titles, but I think I'm going with Jen is okay with VR 180. Tom agrees.
Yeah, the other ones are Charmin's new dump truck, which is funny but kind of gross. This is note the android you're looking. Oh, this is note the android you're looking for.
I like it.
What you care about versus what your dad cares about. Hoover, take note of the next galaxy. Swipe for swipe. Data
swipe for swipe.
We love Len. The switch shortages are not intentional.
I voted for that one.
Intentional, or we love Len?
We love Len. Yeah.
Wees on wheels on the Van Gogh. Can you imagine if you brake too hard? You gotta think about it. What happens if you brake too hard?
One hopes that they have a very stable and well-tested
you can hope.
system.
A special shock system on the interior bed.
And storage system as well.
Yep. Sure.
It's like an RV. The RV has this down. You can,
They usually tell you not to use it when it's moving.
No, not when it's moving. Yeah. Wait, you're saying if you brake while you're using it while it's moving. Don't use it while it's moving.
Blame Apple Virtual VR. Google does a 180 on VR. Google half-asses VR. It's 180 half surround.
We're gonna have to add a warning to Len's illustration that says, "Please do not use while moving."
It's Tom Iron Man. Does it count as biodiesel? That's
Cars
pretty good.
shown in motion for comic effect. Do not replicate.
Yeah, please do not do that.
Well, what's interesting is the 180 is very interesting because really you see a lot of stuff in your peripheral vision that you normally don't think about, but you notice motion, right? And so that's what snaps your head around. So that'd be cool. I'd be down with that. Save money on the other half. Pooper. Really, they just need to. It's.
Here's one objection that I didn't think of when we were doing the show. What about if you see that, and it's because you said that. If I see something and I turn, I'm not going to see half the field of view. If there's something in the corner.
Yeah, you'd have to hope that the director would try to keep the edges like the TV safe kind of barrier. You don't you don't want people to turn too far, so you try to keep the action a little more centered.
So it turns back to being just the 6x9 HD square.
With
Keep
more
your
depth.
vision in this box.
I'm telling you, the second they make a next generation Bridge Crew, I am buying it. I don't even care if it's bad.
Bridge Crew, is that the Star Trek?
Yeah,
game?
it's the one where you see all the hands go like this because there's just no good way to have hands in VR
What's
yet.
the one I was playing where it's a free application and it's basically like a Starship emulator, but it's set up on a bunch of laptops, so everyone takes a role. Like I was a helmsman.
No, I think it's the same one that was turned into the VR, isn't it?
Is it? It's
You think
this
they
one.
hired the crew?
Well, like everyone was part of the crew. Like there was like 5 actual people in the room with me. I'm trying to remember Starship, but it was really interesting because, like, the captain gives orders and you're supposed to follow, and
Supposed to.
it's a pretty cool setup. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I did it like 6 years ago in an alley.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's the same team that made these.
No, I'm pretty sure it is.
That they got a license. They're like, wait, we can make money.
It's pretty fun. I mean, I'm not big. See, this thing, I don't like headsets. I mean, I understand the need for them, but
it's because you have a delicate constitution.
It's because I have a humongous melon for a head. Like things don't fit. It's very awkward.
You just need custom-made headsets then.
I feel like Andre the Giant. You're gonna need a custom shoe, custom pants.
As Len adjusts his headset.
I know.
Starts to
my
feel
head.
Oh
uncomfortable.
my head! These headsets are too big on my diminutive head.
Hey, you laugh, but I have that problem. I have to buy children's helmets, intermediate, not full children, just because the adult ones, they're so big, they just keep falling forward on me.
But at least you can find them in the store. Everything I need is a special order. Shoes? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have triple E 11.5s. You have to buy them online. Which is why I only buy one set of shoes.
You're not tall. You're not massively tall. I'm saying you're a normal height. It's just your head and your feet.
My feet, maybe my waist. I don't know. It's like It's like the other thing. I'm not like most guys. I don't put my gut over my pants.
No, Roger, you're not like most guys in a lot of ways.
It's true. I'm not like most people in a lot of ways. Then my eyes.
Hey, Roger, check out that link in IRC. Artemis?
That's it. I remember that. Oh, that game was great.
Do nots.
Have you played it?
I have not, but I am definitely looking at it now. Let me copy link.
You just need to set up on a bunch of machines and then get a bunch of people together to play. But it's really cool. You have one guy issue the orders, and each person takes the station of a crew member on the ship, like science officer, weapons, helmsman. It's a good way to LARP Star Trek, really.
Which it's exactly what the VR is doing, except it's doing it for VR instead of having to be all in the same place.
With less janky arm waving.
Well, this one,
It cracks me up every time.
I like the Artemis spaceship bridge emulator because it's kind of like a board game in a way because you're interacting with everyone else in that way. I guess I don't know. What do I know? What do I know, Tom?
Yeah, I can't find anything except people saying that Star Trek Bridge Crew is like Artemis. I can't find any clear connection between the two. It certainly is the same kind of thing, though.
But at one point I was thinking of maybe pitching a revamp of that called Are We There Yet? Where you simulate family travel to a national park in a car, and one person takes the place of the father/driver, the mother/navigator, and the 2 kids in the back. Now, if you come from a family with more than 2 kids, you can make it a minivan instead of a station wagon.
Sounds like desert bus with more yelling.
But really, that's pretty much what every vacation road trip with your family is. Are we there yet? Can we eat there? Stop
That's why you need the Uber to go with you so that you don't have to stop so much.
I kid you not. At one point, I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to drive across the country. But what if I have to go in the middle of nowhere and there's no easy access? So I was looking up, various solutions, and one of them ended up, I saw it was ridiculous. It was just a toilet seat that attached to your bumper, and then you attached a bag to the bottom of the toilet seat.
You just
Wait,
go
so that's
off in
not a
the
joke
bushes.
that actually exists?
Yeah. I forgot what they called it. But it was just like, so I'm just going to sit in the back of my
Bumper
car.
buddy.
Is that what it's called?
No, I don't. I'm just guessing.
Well, folks, now that we have exhausted your patience with our talk of and invented the Poober RV,
We owe us money.
Yeah.
We demand royalties.
Yep.
please hang out with us again next time.
On Hat Friday.
Yeah,
Yes.
on Hat Friday. And by the way, I keep meaning to read this email from Pat. Pat suggested questions to be asked during the pre and post show that maybe could be submitted by patrons and put a lot of them out there. So Pat, I definitely got your email and I've been meaning to read it, and we will try to get to them eventually.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
It gives us a direction to talk.
Like an off topic.
And about
Yes.
things people actually want to know about.
Yeah.
Not that talking about Poober RV is bad, or breakfast cereals, as we talked about in the pre-show.
You know what? It could be dating advice, Tom. It could be total dating advice. It could be relationship advice.
No.
It could be legal
It's a horrible
advice.
idea.
We'll give out.
We'll talk about it. I'm not going to give dating advice to people.